Hi guys, welcome to today's talk from Edgehill University with Abi, all about preparing for university as part of Hello Future Live. Very excited for this talk today, so we'll get right to it. So I'll hand over to Abi.
Thank you, Rosa. Hi everyone, my name is Abi Cattlin and I'm part of the student recruitment team at Edgehill University. And today's session is going to be a bit about preparing for university, so sort of what comes after you've submitted that UCAS application form. So what we're going to go through today is we're going to have a look at what we do when we're finalising your decision. And we'll have a look at your different accommodation options when you're looking at universities. We'll also have a little look at student finance, working to a budget and getting used to university study as well. And also a bit about what to expect during your first week. So if you haven't heard of Edgehill before, we are based in a town called Ormskirk, and that's within West Lancashire, and that's in the northwest of England. And we're actually very, very close to big cities like Liverpool and Manchester, you can see on the map there. So this is our campus. We're a campus university, and you can see a picture of our entire campus on the screen here now. So everything is just based on the one location. We've got lots of accommodation situated around the lake here, and you can see all of our sports facilities as well on the right here. And it's also home to things like our library, our lecture theatres, and other facilities too. We even have things like a bar, a nightclub, and we've got like a Subway and a Starbucks as well. So we are really, really big, and there's lots to do on campus. Okay, so when it comes to finalising your decisions, you've got lots of things to think about. So it's likely that you will have received all your offers back at this stage, but if you are waiting on any at the moment, the deadline is actually this week. It's the 20th of May. And if you haven't already decided on your firm and insurance choices, then you will need to do this and reply no later than the 10th of June. So your UCAS apply, once you've submitted, will then become UCAS track. So you might have noticed that already. And this is where you're going to be receiving all of your offers. And there's quite a few different types of offers that you might have received or you might be receiving. So there's unconditional offers, which are university offers that give you a place regardless of what grade you end up getting. But what I will say is just be a little bit wary of these offers and make sure you are still putting all the effort in at college or sixth form, because you'll still need that subject knowledge and those study skills in order to transition into university study well. Then you could also get conditional offers, and these are where the university is basically saying, yes, we'll offer you a place, but you do need to meet some specific requirements to get that place. And those requirements are usually grades or maybe work experience. And then there's also unsuccessful as well, which just means, unfortunately, you haven't been offered a place at that university. You'll then need to decide on your final choices. So that's going to be your firm choice and your insurance choice. And in case you don't know, your insurance choice is actually your second choice. And you usually go for something with slightly lower entry requirements, just in case you don't do as well as you hoped on results day. And then finally, you'll need to decline the other three choices. Okay. So we're aware that obviously this year might have been a little bit more difficult than previous years. So you might not have been able to visit campuses yet. So some of you might have applied for universities and you've never seen them before. So I definitely recommend making use of virtual tours and videos that might be available on university websites, as well as having a little look out for things like open days that universities do as well during the course of the year. Also, do check if your choices are offering live or recorded taster sessions, because these can hold really useful information and you'll be able to make the most of any applicant visit days as well that you might have been invited to. So you might also have to think outside the box a little bit by using things like live chat and virtual tours and trying to find out a bit more information whilst you're not able to visit at the moment. So maybe have a little look on social media pages as well. I know that at Edgehill we've been holding Instagram live Q&A sessions during half terms. So if there's anything you're still unsure about, have a little look out for things like that and make sure you get those questions asked, so you know that you're making a really, really confident decision before the middle of June. So if you are unfortunately unsuccessful from all of your choices, or you maybe declined all of your offers because you've changed your mind, don't worry. You do have the option to utilise UCAS Extra, and this will just allow you to make a 6th application if you need to. So universities might ask you to send a revised personal statement if your personal statement was maybe written for a completely different course, but UCAS will contact you in regards to this if this applies to you. Okay, so then we're going to move forwards to results day. So you can see on the screen here, this is the infographic from Ofqual that outlines how GCSEs, AS and A-levels are going to be awarded in summer 2021. So you can have a little look at that on the screen here now. And if you do want to find out more from Ofqual or view their infographic, just search consultation on how GCSE, AS and A-level grades should be awarded in summer 2021 on the Gov.uk website. And again, the same thing exists for your BTEC and technical qualifications as well. So in this case, you just need to search for consultation on alternative arrangements for the awards of BTQs and other general qualifications in 2021 on the Gov.uk website. So they're really, really useful infographics just to sort of get your head around how things are going to work this year. So you'll soon find yourself at results day in August, so it's worthwhile having a little think now about what you can do once you've got those final grades. So for example, if you don't quite get the grades that you actually need, you do have some further options. So one of those options is actually UCAS Clearing. So you'll need to be prepared to ring around different universities and see if they'll take you based on the grades that you've actually received on results day. There's also UCAS Adjustment, and this is where maybe you've done a lot better than you even expected, and you think, well, actually, I might now want to go to a university and study this course instead. And again, you'll need to ring around different universities and see if they'll take you. So it's important to note both with clearing and adjustment to not let anyone make you feel pressured or rushed into making any of those decisions. So it might help to already prepare that plan B and do a little bit of research before results day, just so that you're really ready and prepared to make that big decision confidently on the day. Now, some people might choose to defer their place at university, and deferring is just basically when a student postpones their entry into uni by another year. So sometimes they might do this so that they can maybe take a gap year, gain work experience, or maybe they just want to pause their study and take a little break. Now, there is some pros and there's also some cons to deferring your place at university, and it's really just about weighing up what's right for you. So some of the pros include that obviously you don't need to reapply during your year out, you'll already have that place secured. You'll get time to decide and also build your confidence as well before you start. But cons wise is you just really need to have a solid plan for the year, because you will find that the universities will want to hear a good reason for why they should let you defer that place. So it's really just about taking some time to weigh up your own personal pros and cons and figure out what's best for you. So there's obviously lots of other things that you might want to consider in that period after you've handed in your application as well. And amongst one of those things is accommodation, which is really exciting. So think about whether you want to stay at home and commute to university or whether you want to move away. I personally chose to commute to university, but almost all of my friends moved away for university, and I definitely saw pros and cons to both. So staying at home might be a cheaper option for you, and you might not have to worry about getting homesick because you'll be in familiar surroundings. And if you have picked a local university, it might just be more convenient for you to stay at home. But if you are thinking about moving away for university, you might find it's actually easier to get more involved with university life, and you will get a chance to live more independently too. So if you are choosing to move away, you'll need to consider the type of accommodation available to you, and there's loads of different types depending on which university that you're choosing to go to. So you might need to choose between things like ensuite accommodation or shared bathroom accommodation. You can pick between being catered or self-catered. And that just means basically if you pick that you catered, you'll get all your meals and snacks included in the price that you pay. You might also want to consider the distance you'll have to travel from where you choose to live and where you'll be studying. So there's lots of things to consider really. Definitely start doing that research now so that you can get your preferred choice ready for when it's time to pick. So you'll usually be able to apply for your accommodation once you've been made an offer. So you might be able to do that now if you've not done it already. But do check the university's policy as well, because a lot of universities will have certain rules that apply. So my advice would be not to dismiss the cheaper halls, because you don't always have to go for the most expensive and luxury accommodation. If you are prepared to share a bathroom with others or maybe stay in a slightly older room, you could end up saving way more of your student loan to spend on things that you really enjoy, like going out with friends or maybe going shopping, whatever it is that you like to spend your money on. Go with what's right for you and what's within your budget. Definitely apply as soon as you're able to, if you're desperate for a particular room or location especially, as you wouldn't want to miss out on your preferred choice. So you also might want to start having a little think about the local area as well. So what's the local area going to be like? What are the surroundings? Think about the transport links as well. So for example, if you were coming to Edge Hill, you'll find that Ormskirk is quite a rural area. We do have a town centre and we do have a train station with great transport links to Liverpool, Preston and Manchester. We also have a bus station with lots of bus routes around the northwest. So things like that might inspire you for opportunities to explore when you do get to university. Also, have a little think about the shops that are there as well. What's your social life going to look like? So have a think about whether there's any nightlife that you really want to explore or any restaurants that you really want to go to. Is there anywhere that you can maybe pick up a hobby or maybe a sports team that you might like to be a part of? So anything like that. Again, have a little think about your budget as well. So maybe somewhere outside of the city might be a little bit cheaper in terms of living expenses and social activities as well. So have a little think about what's best for you. So before you actually move into your accommodation, you'll usually have to sign a license agreement to confirm terms and conditions, and you'll usually need to pay a deposit as well. And this might be included in your first payment. You'll be allocated a date and a time when you can actually move into your accommodation. So for example, at Edge Hill, we have something called Welcome Weekend, where all students come and move in and they'll often bring their parents, and we just get everyone moved in on those specific days and everyone's made to feel really, really welcome. So different universities might also work in different ways, so do bear that in mind as well. And university halls will usually have their own social media groups as well that you can have a look at. And that's a really, really great way to meet your flatmates online before you arrive. So that's really a top tip from us. So if you know what accommodation it is that you're going to be moving into, have a little look on Facebook, find the group. There's usually a group for every halls at every university. Get yourself added into that group, and it's a great way to just sort of connect with other people that you might be living with in the very near future. Okay, so we're going to move on to having a look at student finance now as well. So as you know, student finance is an online application, and 2021 applications are open now, but they are due to close very, very soon. So do bear that in mind. So it's really, really important, obviously, to apply as early as possible to this, just to ensure that you get that money ready for when you start university and not after you've started, because that can be a little bit inconvenient for you if you're hanging on waiting for that money to come through and all your friends are off going out having fun and you're still waiting for your student loan to come through. So do plan ahead and get that in as soon as you can. And then if there are any bits of paperwork that you need to gather alongside, then you've got plenty of time to get that together within the time frame. You'll also need to provide your national insurance number as well. So do make sure you've got that handy if you've not done this already. So some of you might have already submitted your student finance applications, but it's worth having a little recap of what it is you can expect to get. So you can get two types of loan at university, and they're the maintenance loan and the tuition fee loan. So your maintenance loan is for stuff like your accommodation and everyday expenses as well, like food, your social life, and any travel expenses as well. So the amount you'll get will vary depending on if you're staying at home or moving away. And you can actually see some of the amounts on the screen here. So you'll be given a higher amount if you're studying in London, and that's just due to the cost of living down there. It's much, much higher. So your tuition fee loan is also applied for through student finance, and that just covers the cost of your course tuition fees. And you don't see that, that goes directly to the university. Now, this bit's really important because there are various other ways that you can actually get additional income that you don't necessarily have to pay back. And one of these is scholarships. And you will find that universities usually set their own criteria for these. So they tend to focus on things like excellence in sports, volunteering, performing arts, and academic achievement too. But sometimes they're given as well if you do come from a lower income household or something like that, just to give you a little bit of extra support. Now, it's worth having a look into what scholarships different universities offer, because they might have one available that you hadn't even thought of or hadn't realised that you were eligible for. So that's really, really important to have a look into. And then there's also different forms of support available from the student loan company as well. So there's things like disabled students allowance, dependents grants, childcare grants, and parents learning allowance. So if any of those apply to you, it's definitely worth having a look into them and seeing if you're eligible for those too. Now, if you are going into any sort of health course, there might be some additional support available for you as well. So if you're studying things like midwifery, nursing, operating department practice, dentistry, radiography, speech and language therapy, things like that, the sorts of courses you can see listed on the slide here, then you could also get a non-repayable payment per academic year, which will help you with that tuition fee. And that's worth £5,000 per academic year. So that's a brilliant extra source of income if you are studying one of those health-related courses. And then even more so, the NHS Learning Support Fund does offer even further support if you're looking to do one of these specific courses on the slide here. And that could be either £2,000 help towards childcare costs, £1,000 if you're in a geographical region who's struggling to recruit for these roles, or £1,000 if you're studying in one of these shortage groups as well. So mental health nursing, learning disability nursing, radiography, prosthetics and orthoptics and podiatry, or even combinations of those subjects. So it's definitely worth having a look into that. And you can get more information off the NHS website for those. So what's really, really important to start having a think about before you get to university is understanding how to live and work to a budget. So amazingly, 71% of students actually say they wish they had a better financial education before going to university. And I would definitely say the exact same from my experience too. And I can see Rosa nodding in the corner there as well. So I went to university just over 5 years ago, and I don't remember being taught anything about budgeting or financial responsibility before I went. So what's really, really important at university is knowing what you've got coming in and what you expect to be going out. So there's lots and lots of benefits of tracking and controlling your spending as well. So your income at university will be made up of your maintenance loan, maybe scholarships and bursaries, maybe part-time jobs, and maybe some savings that you've got as well. And on average, students actually spend about £795 per month. So your maintenance loan will come in 3 big instalments each year. So you need to make sure that maintenance loan sees you through those couple of months that it's for. So what happens is you'll usually get one instalment in September, and then you won't get the next one till January, and then you won't get the next one till around the end of April. So knowing when those payments are expected to come in is really important for budgeting. Now, there's some really good online sources of information as well, and a lot of the big banks do some really good budgeting games where you can virtually work out what you'll be spending. You also get to consider things like transport, social life, and they'll get you thinking about how much things actually cost, because it's quite surprising when you actually look into it if you've not done it before. So things like food and accommodation. So it will just help you figure out how much you'll actually be left with to have fun with. So it's definitely worth having a look at that before you actually go to uni. So let's have a little look now at what your outgoings are likely to look like. So stuff like rent, groceries, going out, maybe you might like to go on holidays, bills. It's just a case of prioritising what is important to you. There isn't a one-fits-all method to managing your finances at all. It's up to you what you think is priority to spend your money on. Just make sure you obviously leave yourself enough for the essentials first. So things like having a roof over your head and food in the cupboards has obviously got to be priority. And then things like holidays and shopping, that'll need to be budgeted for as long as you have enough money left over. So part-time work is a great way to earn extra money at university if you can fit it in. So if you are wanting to increase that income whilst at uni and give yourself a bit of a bigger budget to enjoy, part-time work is just a great option for you. You might find that there's actually loads of opportunities to work for your university itself. So for example, at Edge Hill, we employ lots of student guides that work across the university, but there's also opportunities to work in like hospitality and retail here as well. So if you are working for the university, it's often a bit more flexible. So it's a great chance to enhance that employability and increase your skills without detracting from your studies. So different universities will have their own way of helping you find jobs, but we have something called the Advantage platform at Edge Hill here, which brings together all of our extracurricular opportunities into the one place, including jobs. So top tips for budgeting would include having a little think about what's essential and what's not essential. We'd also suggest setting yourself a weekly budget as well. And you can do this quite simply by working out your total income for the term, minus your essentials, and then divide that number by the number of weeks within the term and try to stick within that budget each week. You can also set yourself some goals to reduce that spending and to boost your income too. Something worth exploring is like banks like Monzo. They're great because they've got apps where you can actually track your spending and it shows you what you're spending your money on in certain categories as well in each month. So it might be worth downloading apps like that to have a little look at what it is you spend your money on and where maybe you could make some savings. Okay, so the last thing that we're going to look at today is getting used to university study, because that's going to be something that's really, really important to you. So in terms of preparing for your course, do keep an eye out for receiving any emails from university, because they might actually include some really, really useful subject-specific resources just to help you prepare. And these could be anything from reading lists to podcasts, videos, maybe recorded sessions like these, or small tasks that you might need to complete as well. So these are sometimes optional, but do check any details of your course and university first. So completing tasks like these, whether they're optional or not, are just going to really boost your confidence. So it's really, really worth doing them. So if you haven't been sent any resources, you can always email your university to ask as well yourself. You could also have a little look at module lists as a starting point for your reading. And it's also really useful to keep up to date with things like news articles, have a look on the media, or even listen to some TED Talks as well, maybe. So it might be useful to try adopting a bit of a critical approach and asking yourself if sources you choose are actually reliable and up to date as well. So as well as subject-specific resources, you might also receive some emails from university with resources to help you develop your skill set for higher education. So these might include things like webinars, videos, toolkits, guides, or even just top tips on topics like research skills, academic writing, academic resilience, note-taking, active learning, and independent study as well. So for example, at Edgehill, our Uni Skills Program provides support with the above topics through live webinars, toolkits, and other resources before you actually start university. And you'll be surprised how important all of those things are. And again, by engaging with that content, it's just going to help boost your confidence for when you actually start. So you might also receive some other resources from your university as well, just to help you feel prepared in other ways. And this will be different depending on the university that you've chosen. So for example, at Edgehill, our offer of support before you start includes a survey to find out what you feel would be of benefit so that we can really provide the most relevant support to you. We take part in something called the Big Read. And what that is you and your fellow students will receive a copy of our chosen book for that year. And that just means that you'll all have a common ground to discuss when you actually get here. So you will have all had a chance to read that book and you'll then have something to talk about when you get here. That's the idea of that. You'll also be provided with lots of wellbeing resources and advice. And then you'll also have the chance to chat to current students as well using our chat platform. And that's just really so that you've got the chance to ask any pre-arrival questions that you might have. And honestly, no question's a silly question. If you want to ask something specific about your accommodation, student life, what to bring, what to wear on your first day, anything like that, no question is a silly question. So it's worth noting as well that there's obviously lots of student support available to you when you get here, and the different teams that you'll be able to access support from are listed on the screen here. So there really is a team for everything. So at Edgehill, we're really proud to have been shortlisted for Best Student Support in the What Uni Student Choice Awards back in 2019. So if you do anticipate needing any specific support at any university, it's a really good idea to contact that chosen university and that specific support team in advance so that you feel as comfortable as you can be before you arrive. They're really there to help you. So please do get in touch with them if you have any specific questions relating to any of those things listed on the slide here. Okay, so we're going to have a little look at your first week now before we finish. So hopefully, fingers crossed, everything will be a bit more normal this year and you'll be able to get involved with all of the usual activities. So there's loads and loads of things to get involved with during your first week, including enrolment, checking your timetable and seeing what you need to be in for lectures and seminars. So definitely use this week to sign up for the likes of societies and sports teams if you're interested, because these are really fun and they're going to be the best way to meet like-minded people outside of your course. Do try and be brave as well and get involved with as much as you can, but obviously don't feel overwhelmed or pressured. Just you structure your week in a way that suits you best and don't feel like you've just got to go along with what everybody else is doing. Make sure you make the most out of that week and do the things that you really want to do. So your first week essentials should include suitcases that are easy to carry. And this just makes moving things around much easier. So you'll need to complete your enrolment process because you won't receive your student loan without doing that. So that's really important as well. We also recommend that you don't go food shopping until you get to university. Just bring those essentials. And this is just because you might find that all your flatmates might just bring the exact same things, and you might all actually struggle to find places to put everything. Sometimes it's quite fun actually to do your first food shop with your flatmates as well. And you'll probably find that you might like to chip in for things like milk and bread because you might not use it all on your own. And sometimes it's just easier to share with other people that you're living with. So with regards to documents that you might need to bring as well when you first get to university, you'll definitely need your student finance information. any ID documents or bank details, and any correspondence from the university too. And pay attention to any instructions from the university, because they will actually list everything you need, which is really handy, because if you are moving far away, it would be really, really inconvenient for you if you maybe forgot something that you didn't realise you needed. So do pay attention to those emails and make sure you gather up all those really, really important documents ready for your first week. Okay, so just to summarise, your university checklist should look a bit like this over the coming months. So you'll need to make those final decisions, if you haven't already, on your firm and insurance choices, but try and make sure that you attend an applicant visit day if you haven't already, just so that you can be absolutely sure before you make that big decision. Make sure you've also got a plan B for results day as well, and have a little look at your accommodation and make a decision about where you want to live, and submit that application for that as well. If you are planning on commuting, have a think about how are you going to get there and factor that into your budgeting as well. Make sure that you've obviously applied for your student finance if you haven't already, and have you completed all of those parts of the form as well by the deadline. And have your parents or supporters completed their part of the form too? Do check with them as well. Have a little think about what your budget might look like, and have a look at those different banking apps and budgeting games as well. Also, start preparing for university study, so thinking about any independent study over the summer. Have a little look at that reading list and any extra research that you could be doing as well. And then finally, what's your university planning for your first week? So what could you actually get involved with in that first week? So you'll be getting lots of different communications from universities in the coming months. So work out what's going to be right and relevant to you, because this will help you to ensure that you get the most out of that university experience, and it'll also help you to pick the right course and university for you as well. So that brings me to the end of today's talk, but there's obviously lots more information out there. If you are interested in finding out any more about Edge Hill, all of our details are on the screen here now. Otherwise, Rosa, that is the end of this presentation.
Thank you so much, Abby. That was so great. So this event has been put on as part of Hello Future Live. We're running until the 18th of June. So if you catch this on YouTube, then there might still be events going on. So please do check it out. Cheers. Thank you so much.